It's now been 1 year since I posted my very first video on this channel. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about and give an update to everything I've said this past year. It's gonna be a long video, so let's get started. So, in my very first video, I talked about some small ideas that I thought would improve the game. None of the things I mentioned in that video has come true, but still, a lot of things have happened in SSO since then. It's reached a point where I don't think the video is necessary anymore, because the team knows how to make the game better. I think it's improved massively this past year, and I trust that they know what's best for the future of the game. In the video about Mystic Valley being the next area to be released, I was wrong. As it turns out, they were planning on releasing Mistful Lake after all. Except that it's not called Mistful Lake, but Wildwoods. And now we know that the next area coming up is, the rest of Wildwoods. And after that, well, they don't exactly have that many areas left on the current map, so I'm still hoping for Mystic Valley to come up sooner or later. One thing that I have been questioning lately though, is if it's possible that I will arrive along with Winter Valley. Because we never hear anything about Mystic Valley, and frankly, I'm not even sure what that name comes from. In every map and every version of the game, this area is just mountains, and the only things that suggest otherwise are the updates in the area and the last fridge door. But the fridge door can very well be placed in the mountains, and we know from experience that the updates may not reflect the final product. If this is the case, it would allow them to create a bigger area, because the mountains don't need that much work and detail put into them. At least not compared to all the villages and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mystic Valley turned out to be a mountain pass between the current map and Winter Valley. I don't have any information on that though, so that's just some speculation that I wanted to share. On the furniture video, the only thing I have to add is that there's plenty of furniture and texture and stuff in the game files, and apparently something called My Room. I think it sounds a lot like the same concept as our stable. I don't think these have been modified since 2016 though, so it's impossible to tell if this is anything coming soon. They might have prepared it for something later on in the game. And now the office video. The office was actually teased way back in 2015 for the release of Epona, so it was much older than I thought. What's interesting now though is that some NPCs has apparently showed up in there, such as GED employees and Jupiter Peacebloom. This makes me realize that Jupiter Peacebloom could be a GED spy, and that his time in Chill has all been an act. Very interesting. The chat got an update shortly after I made my video about it, and you're now far less likely to get punished when having a normal conversation. Great! There's still some stuff that could be improved, but this is a great beginning. The way it works now is that if you say something inappropriate, the message won't send and you need to change it. I know some people have complained about this solution and said that it's no better, but I personally think this is much better than the hashtags and the random chat bans. Now about my disco theory. It's possible that Disco's identity is none other than the famous astronomer Giobertus. At least it looks just like him, but it could also be his son or something, because Giobertus was alive during the 1920s. We learn about Giobertus in Stars and Legacy Episode 2, Secret of Pine Hill Mansion, although not much is said about him. Moving on to the fridge doors, I've gotten a ton of feedback and various theories from you guys. The most famous ones being that there's 5 doors for the 5 Soul Riders, or that Darkcore are building tunnels underground to free Garnock. Sadly though, I don't think this is a mystery we'll be able to solve until we have more information about the doors. Or hatches, as they're actually called. There's an achievement in the game called the Hatchery, where you have to find all the 4 hatches. Which is, the fridge doors. The only new information I have about the fridge door video though, is that the UFO most likely is the one that Garnock crash landed in when he first came to Jorvik. This is addressed in Star Trek Legacy Episode 3, Legend of Pandoria, where Anne is looking at the Pandoric murals that reveal the story of Garnock and the Soul Riders. When I hit 5,000 subs, I made a little video about some mysterious NPCs I found mentioned in the game files. Well, as it turns out, there are actually 3 people who could pass as Gunnar in the game files. The first one is Galloper Thompson, whose original name was Gunnar Thrimson. The second one is Gunther, the German tourist, who apparently is called Gunnar in some languages. And the last one is Paddy Pig, an old pig seller who is called Gunnar Gris in some languages, including Swedish. This is the one I think is more likely, considering that the game company is Swedish. We still have no idea who Ernst and Christoph Ironsaddle are though, and those were the most interesting ones too. I really wonder what's up with them. In the video about the Buttergoods being vampires, there were actually some hints I had missed out on. For example, in the comics that Star Stable posts on their Instagram, there have been several hints about Scott being a vampire. There are small details like how he's drawn to look pale and vampire-like and how he has a bat on his belt buckle. But there's also more straightforward things, like how he lost his race against Alex because he got in trouble trying to cross a garlic patch. And also the way Alex later refers to him as a vindictive vampire cowboy. We also got some new hints this winter during 2 quests. In one of them, Scott invites us over for dinner. You can here choose to say that you'll bring the garlic bread, in which he of course will respond negatively. In another quest, Josh is asking the player what he should give Scott as a gift. One option is a super strong sunscreen, referencing the fact that vampires have to avoid the sun. Another option is a box of glitter, which is a reference to Twilight, where the vampires sparkle in the sun. And now, the male characters. I just want to say that I became really passionate about this after reading the comments on this video, and I'm gonna have to be serious for a moment. Cause it's one thing to disagree and have opinions about something. I think it's completely fine if people think this will change the story or be a lot of work, because those are legitimate concerns. But it's something entirely else to straight up hate on the male gender. I've read countless of comments saying how boys will ruin the game and harass other players, and that if boys are added, they will quit the game. Well, newsflash. There are already plenty of boys in the game. There are people of all kinds of genders in this game. Just because the character is female by default doesn't mean that the player is. And it's not like they're magically gonna start harassing you just because they're allowed to play as their own gender. If anything, it's the other way around. I've heard so many stories about boys being harassed in this game just because they're boys. So I'm saying it. This kind of behavior is toxic and I don't want to hear a word about it. You don't want the story to change? That's understandable. You want the team to prioritize other things? I absolutely get that. But to claim that boys will ruin the game with their presence? No. If the team decides to give us male characters, we're gonna have male characters. And if not, that's understandable. But I don't want to see this kind of negativity going around in the community. You are free to have your own opinions, but it doesn't give you the right to disrespect anyone. Now, on a more positive note, the team has confirmed that our player character will get an update this year and become much more customizable and diverse. The opening credits have also been changed to become gender neutral, which could possibly be a hint towards male characters. Whether or not this is the case, we have yet to find out. Now, about the 4th Dark Rider. Yeah, a lot of people didn't really believe me when I said that it could be Miss Drake. Which I get. I mean, she probably is a new character. But if she's not, there's no better candidate than Miss Drake, and that's what the theory is based on. But anyway, the only thing I want to update you on here is that SSO have removed the ages of all characters in the character journal. This doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Miss Drake or the 4th Dark Rider. I mean, of course not, but a lot of you seem to think that she was too old to be a Dark Rider. Well, now her age is no longer official. And besides, her bio does describe her as a young woman. Regarding the Dino Valley update, I forgot to mention the balloon that showed up at the icing gate last summer. Well, it's now also functional. For a while, some people speculated that the Frisians would be sold here, but that didn't happen, so I'm just more convinced that this has to do with the upcoming quests and the Dino Valley update. And lastly, there's the cheating. Apparently, the lag cheating had already been fixed long before I made the video. I couldn't remember that being ever addressed, and I couldn't find it mentioned in the fix logs, so I kinda just assumed that it was still happening. But it was already fixed, which is great. Some people also commented how cheat engines can't give you free star coins or free horses. I don't know how cheat engines work, and I'm not going to explore them, but a lot of them do promise all of this, so I can only assume that that's what they do. If they don't work as intended, then that's good, I guess. But they're still allowing you to cheat the game in various ways, so it doesn't really change my original point. Don't use cheat engines. Okay, so I think that was all of the updates. Feel free to tell me in the comments if there was something I missed, and I will try to read everything. Thank you for an amazing year together on this channel. We've had a lot of good discussions, and honestly, I feel like I made a ton of new friends throughout this journey. I honestly can't thank you enough for your support. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, if you did, I'll see you around. Bye!